89.9 KMOJ FM and KMOJ HD1 Minneapolis, St. Paul. Bringing unity to the community. 89.9 KMOJ, the People's Station.
89.9 KMOJ, today's R&B and throwbacks. I'm Glam Life Kim, and today is Wednesday, October the 28th. It is 1 after the 1 o'clock hour, and it is time for Minneapolis 360 with one of my favoriteest people in the whole wide world, Mr. Anthony Taylor. How are you today, hon?
Good afternoon, Kim. I am feeling blessed. I feel always excited and privileged to be on the radio, even though I'm not in the studio. It is one of those days that I'm feeling real good, and I thought about you this morning, and I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay.
First, tell me how you doing. What's going on with you?
I am awesome. I am blessed. It's been a busy week, an exhausting week for me. There's a lot going on, but I'm blessed to be able to wake up today.
Absolutely, and as I woke up this morning, I thought about you and what you said about, trying to tackle winter, right? So I woke up and I drank my cup of coffee outside. Do that count?
Oh, you were bold this morning, huh? You were really bold. You sat outside with your coffee.
I said it's baby steps.
Baby steps, okay. I see you embracing winter slowly but surely.
I'm trying, but I thought about you this morning, so I thought I would share that with you. It's baby steps for me.
Baby steps, I understand.
Trying to tackle this Minneapolis, Minnesota weather.
Right.
And as Twin Cities, as you know, we've been talking about tackling the winter a lot in our previous shows and being able to do things differently than what we usually do. Some of us hibernate, but again, I think me and Kim got a competition going on, so we're going to figure it out.
We said we are going to embrace the winter this year because we know it's going to be cold. We know that the snow is coming, right? I mean, the snow has actually arrived. So
it is. It's the wind chill that's the problem.
Right. So we just got to embrace it now.
I'm trying. Can I get a half a point on that?
I give you a half a point. You sat outside. You bolder than me.
Okay. All right. I'm up a half. So I'm keeping score.
Okay.
Welcome, Minneapolis. I am Anthony Taylor. Welcome to Minneapolis 360. It is always my pleasure to be with you. Every afternoon, every other Wednesday. However, we have been talking the last couple of weeks about a lot of important things that are going on in our city, in our state, in our country. So I always hope that you get some quality information regarding what's important to you, your family, and your community. Today, I really wanted to talk about a topic, and I think I'm excited, as Kim is as well, to talk about mental health during a pandemic, during the wintertime. I have the perfect person to come on and talk about some things that we can do, maybe recognizing some symptoms that happen, because we have to be realistic about what's going on in our country, our world, and specifically in our city, and that is COVID-19 is still alive, and a lot of us have been isolated for quite some time because of COVID, and also dealing with the many issues that COVID-19 had brought upon us this past 8 months, and some of the situations that's been happening in our city with the murder of George Floyd, and just the combination and the cumulative effect that all of this is having on us, our children, and our families. I wanted to bring somebody on to really talk about how we can kind of interrupt some of those things that we do and think better and do better and maybe eat and sleep better to kind of help us get through our situation. And I think obviously if some of us have listened to the way we get our news, that cases are rising in the Twin Cities. This is also cold and flu season as well. So I wanted to bring on this person to really talk about what we can do. And she's a first-time guest, and I want to welcome her with open arms. Dr. Sheila Sweeney, PhD. We'll talk about these things. Welcome to our show, Dr. Sweeney, and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Thank you so much for having me on here today. I work in St. Paul. My practice is called Pieces and Puzzles, and really I help individuals who come to me for psychotherapy just to kind of bridge and piece things together that they may not be able to make meaning out of, like in their life. So it's not people who are just only experiencing tragedies or extreme mental health concerns, but some people who just have, maybe they've had a loss, maybe they have had a change or a transition in their life, and they really just want to try to understand where they're at so that they can know where they're going. And so I do that with individuals, and then I also work with agencies and systems, helping them to also bring healing techniques into the agency, because we all know that agencies go through a lot of changes. When we get new directors and new leadership, things change, and some employees are still stuck with not being able to express their emotions. So I work with interagencies as well to help their systems keep flowing.
And I love the name of your practice, Dr.
Yes.
Sweeney.
Thank
Pieces
you.
and Puzzles. Tell us what went into that name, because it's making me feel some type of way, and it's a beautiful thing. So tell us a little bit about how that name came about.
Thank you so much. I've had that name for quite a bit. So over 10 years I've been practicing. And I just remember wanting to go into business for myself and really just wanting to really have the name zoom in on what do I want to offer people when I say, hey, come to me for services, right? And ultimately, the peace as the first word is I want people to actually leave with peace. So you come in with challenges and issues and different things that you want to come in and talk about, even if you just want to come in and chat and get some things off your chest. But that's the holistic piece of that is that people would leave with peace. The journeys through healing, peace, that's the tagline to my name, that healing is not quick. It's not easy, and it's normal
Absolutely.
to let it go through a process. And so really the journey through healing is just telling people up front, this is not going to be easy. This didn't happen to us last night. This didn't, come to us in a day, so it's going to take some time to get through it. And then the puzzles piece is, again, I'm working with people, not just their body, I'm working with their soul, right? And I'm a spiritual person, so I really ask for a name that encompasses the whole body, the whole person, that people can come in with their whole self and feel comfortable and talk about who they are and be authentic, and also have a person who's listening with empathy, also with authenticity. And people tell me all the time, Dr. Sweeney, I love coming in to talk to you because you don't make me give a total background story. You help me piece it together once we get there, but I don't have to come in knowing what all of that means yet. And so it really has spoken for itself as well.
Wonderful. Hey, I have to say one quick thing. Can you please just spell it out to the audience? Can you let them know how you spell pieces and puzzles?
P-E-A-C-E-S. Can you hear me?
Yep.
P-E-A-C-E-S. So the word peace, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, representing my logo is a puzzle piece. So pieces, and then the letter N, and then puzzles is P-U-Z, capital S-O-U-L-S, to capitalize that soul. That again, every time I work with someone, I really let the universe, I really ask God, I really ask all of those different elements, whatever that person's religion or background, what their belief system is, I ask all of that to enter the room and the space with us.
I love it. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, and thank you,
you.
Dr. Sweeney. I mean, you sound so good right
I
now.
know. Look, bro, I'm like, okay, I'm finding her on social media right now. Like, I
Yeah,
can't wait to set my appointment.
absolutely. I mean, a
Thank
sister with
you.
a whole PhD, and I'd love that for sure. So, Dr. Sweeney, tell us, and what I talked about briefly in the intro of the show, mental health, right? So we are in the midst of a lot of things on so many different levels, especially with COVID and things like that people are experiencing. And again, with trauma is cumulative and collective. So as we transition into the winter months and with COVID, what are some of the mental health impacts that folks might be experiencing around this time?
Yeah, they are great and small and everything in between, right? So, and we are getting more familiar with the word trauma, I would say, and trauma has been coming up quite a bit as a mental health symptom for some, as an overall feeling of tragedy for others. trauma is hitting our community in bigger waves, and I think because we've been kind of slowing down and paying a little bit more attention to kind of our surroundings and what's going on in our bodies and in our minds, trauma is forcing us to sit down with it, whether it's something that's happening in front of us, which you all just named the things that are happening right now in our community, in our world, in our systems, but also take that and apply it or layer it on top of the other stuff that people already had going on.
Absolutely.
That is being played out, acted out inside of our bodies, which is screaming for what's going on, information, direction, guidance, love, all of those different things, connectivity. As we've been talking more about social distancing, I often think, and I'm not the owner of this word, but I've often been thinking about why aren't we using the word physical distancing? Because when we think about social distancing, we actually need each other. We need to be socializing. We need connection. And that's another thing that's happening. People are feeling like they're falling out of connection with their loved ones, falling out of connection with their routines. And so when we think about social, that's actually one of the major things that we need when we're in early childhood. We need social emotional development, which that leads me to our children. Our children are suffering from not being around their peers, their friends, not being able to go to school, which is a routine, right? I was thinking in my life, I'm like, none of us have ever experienced this, but also trying to look from the lens of a child to say, yeah, during my childhood, I don't remember any big things like this happening to where it changed the entire fabric of the way I did things. And so helping kids to give themselves and us giving them some compassion and helping them to really understand that we're really between a normalcy and a non-normalcy. And what that means, we don't know because we're all still figuring it out. And I would just say that those are some of the big things that are happening in our community. I would say grief and loss, and not just when we apply it to death, but grief and loss of social touch, of like being able to hug each other or pausing now to say, can I even hug you? Right. Can I even come close to you? Like, so we're pausing a lot. And some of the things that have happened in our bodies, with the murder of George Floyd, I would say that, that also being a huge layer on top of this. And it's not a new thing for our community, right? But it's a viewed thing right now. It's being viewed. We were sitting, we could see it, and we could try to, use this information to show those who weren't able to see this before that this is a thing that's been happening, that's been going on, and we don't know what to do with this, but we are resilient people, right? And so all of those things I think are going into people's mental health, and mental health is really mind health. It's how we mind the mind. And if our mind isn't healthy, it's in disorder, right? It's not in order, and we're feeling that. We're feeling that in our body. We're feeling that in everything that we're doing, and just wanting to move back in terms of awakening that piece in our body that's already, maybe carrying some trauma that we may not even be able to articulate. I'm going to use one of my loved ones, for instance. I called them, and during, the pandemic and right after the murder of George Floyd, I called them and I said, how are you doing? One of the elders in our family, and she said, I'm not feeling well, but I don't know why. And, just kind of naming some ailments, didn't really want to get up this morning, those kind of things. And I think if we were looking at the medical community or medical terminology, one might say, well, are you depressed, right? We may use some of that terminology. But in this instance, given that I knew what was going on in the world, I knew what we had just experienced, I knew what we had just watched, I knew all the tragedy that went with that. And what I explained to her is that when you were young during the civil rights movement, you didn't have an explanation for all of this stuff. Nobody was able to put words to this. And now it's awakened again in your body. It is coming up, it is resurfacing in a way that you recognize. So trauma and all of these things, the mental health, it lives in our body. Even when our minds don't remember it, our bodies keep the score, right? Our bodies will remember what we are feeling and experiencing it, but we may not always be able to name that. So you do have people who have never experienced mental health or had a mental health diagnosis who are experiencing those things now and talking about symptoms of depression and anxiety, because those are the things that we are fluctuating up and down with, given what we're in right now in our times, not having explanations, not having leadership that we can fully trust. And so because we are resilient people, that is one thing I think that's a saving grace for us, because we have survived things before and we do know how to survive things, and that also lives in our body.
And Dr. Sweeney, I mean, you might drop so much right now. So, and it all resonated with me, and I think it resonated with our listeners absolutely. And I really appreciate you, dropping those dimes. And what's really fascinating or interesting to me is the fact that when we talk about the physical distancing and you transition it from not saying the social to the physical, it's absolutely right. And I think what you said hit me really profoundly, is that being able to hug and being able to dap my brother and all those type of things that I'm not used to. And you said it beautifully. You said like pause, right? So it's almost like you're doing that double dutch step and you don't know, right? When you go in for the hug and you don't know if that's
Yes.
acceptable or not, and those type of things. And then even real quickly, if you can touch on this, right, with the holiday season coming up in our community, our people, I mean, we love to fellowship and we love to have food with that. So people are making some really tough decisions that they may have not been able to have to make in 20, 30, 40 years about being together to have that close contact. So that's a challenge too, that folks really, that adds stress and anxiety too. Am I correct by saying that?
Absolutely, because there's already stress and anxiety around the holidays, even if we weren't in a
Anyway,
pandemic.
absolutely.
So absolutely. And we don't know what it's going to look like yet, too. So that's also an added anxiety. Can we all meet up? Can we eat together? Can we fellowship? And what does that look like? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are a lot of reflective questions I think that we would ask ourselves, and, asking people to, I think, check in with their family and loved ones to see, what are we going to do? I challenge all of us to, just have that conversation, throw it out there. And if someone feels like they're on the outskirts of that, like, I don't know if I feel comfortable or safe, see if there's another way that they can be connected during that time. If we're not connected physically, see if we can, for even an hour or so during the holidays, jump on, a video call, a phone call,
Right.
some of those things.
We got to get creative.
Okay. Yeah, we do have to get creative. And I think it reminds me of, when I listen to my grandmother and those folks talk about before they had TV, like, I'm like, what did y'all do? So I'm calling on even some of our elders. What did y'all do when there was no TV, when y'all had no technology? Like, what did that look like? I think bringing in some of all of our history to be creative around the holidays, and think about what can we do and what should we not do, and if we're going to gather, how can we make it be a safe gathering for everyone?
Right.
Absolutely.
We are talking with Dr. Sweeney of Pieces and Puzzles, psychotherapist practice in St. Paul. I just, I don't even know where to go from there, Dr. Sweeney, because I think you said so much great stuff. And one of the things that Kim touched on, and you talked about it too, was being creative, right? So how can we be creative about being with family and being able to do us, so to speak, in family? Give folks some other tips, right? Because I'll tell you, one of the things that I struggle with personally is that with all of the stuff that's going on, and now we're in less than a week away from, I think, in my lifetime, one of the biggest elections that I've ever experienced. And again, I've only experienced a few. My elders, like you talked about, experienced it a lot. And I've touched on the fact that I thought that when Barack Obama was elected president, that this was one of the most monumental things I've ever experienced in my life. And it is. But however, this election feels like it has my body feeling some type of way too. So with all the things going on and all of the events that are going to happen next week, give folks some tips around how they can cope with some of these things, these stress and these anxieties that folks are feeling in their body.
Absolutely. I would say, think about, I have during the pandemic been starting to move into doing some more breath work. So recognizing my breath, and meaning just breathing in and breathing out, some exhaling exercises, checking in. That helps me then check in with my body. It helps me to slow down because I do recognize pre-COVID, I was doing too much. I was taking on too much. I was saying yes too much. And during that time, it actually gave me a moment to just really try to slow down and see what who am I now? Like, who am I? What do I want to do? I always say, back in the day, I used to love just playing the music super loud and letting that take me away for hours. Like, I would just sing along and listen. And so I'm like, I haven't done that in years. But this time, I'm like, let's turn on the music. Let's call a friend we haven't talked to or a relative and stay on the phone and laugh and kiki for hours. I would say, look through the photo albums. Remember we used to do that? Like when things weren't digital, right? Looking through photo albums and really trying to looking at some Thanksgiving past pictures or, maybe you can talk with family members on, let's swap some pictures. Let's send some pictures in the chat or in a group text or something. Let's send some inspirational quotes, things like that. Let's share some recipes. What are we making for Thanksgiving? For my mom's birthday that came up, what we did is we didn't all get together as all the different, we have a huge family. My grandmother has 9 children, and they have children and their grandchildren, all of that, so we can't all get together. But what we did during that Zoom moment is we had people gather at different households, and then we all zoomed in from a household. So we could gather together that way, right? So we couldn't all be together. So thinking about some things like that, board games, so I just really say touching base and touching base with each other, not feeling like you can't tell another person that you're having a hard time and that you need some support. Because we all need support. Even the people who are the healers and the therapists in the community, we all need support right now. Absolutely. And we're all going to go through our time of that and embrace what you're sitting in right now. The best way to get through anxiety is to actually sit in it. And I know people don't want to hear that, but it truly is. When the pandemic first arose, I didn't recognize the anxiety in my own body, and I do this every day. But what my anxiety looked like was that I filled up in one day 10 large recycling bins of paper, because that's how I moved about my house. And I said, okay, I don't want to sit here and feeling in the dumps or feeling like I don't have control over my life. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start picking up paper. I'm going to start recycling. I'm going to start throwing things away. But that's what my anxiety looked like. So if you can also turn that fear into an actionable item, do something with it. So it doesn't feel good to just sit in it. I get that. So just get up and turn that anxiety into energy that you can use. Turn that down in the dump feeling to have yourself a pity party for about 5, 10, 30 minutes. Snap out of it. Tell yourself, all right, this isn't taking me anywhere, right? And I'm saying pity party, not that I'm putting that on anybody else. That's what I call that for myself, because I move into those when I feel like I have no control over things. People who truly have a diagnosis of depression, right, which may affect their sleeping, their eating, their coping skills, their concentration, those things are serious. Pull out a journal. Reach out to a mental health professional or to a community member first. Sometimes our community members, our families, our friends, our clergy are our first line of contact before we ever move into more serious or connecting with a mental health professional. So those are some things that I would suggest. It's not the end-all, be-all. Coloring, journaling, cooking meals, doing things that make you feel happy and good, okay? We know what that looks like. Even if I'm a daydreamer, even if I have to sit there and fantasize for a little bit, that is my escapism. Sometimes I escape in my own mind, and it's good. I actually like it. I've been doing that since I was a kid. But thinking about what does that look like and what can I be working on for self-development as well, whatever that means, right? Whatever that means.
Yeah. You know what? For me, I've just figured out that I really need to start taking more time just for myself period. Like setting aside an hour a day or, just some time to like you said, sometimes I just like to listen to the music. I may play gospel, I may play R&B, I may play rap, whatever I'm feeling at that moment, I may play it and talk to God. That's my time to just get back mental and just talk about being thankful for the things that I have and I've received and my talents and for even waking up to see another day. So when I take that time for myself, then I'm usually able to just, okay, now I can continue on with my day. And sometimes it just gives me the ability to be able to come back in a whole different mood and a whole different feeling.
And that is so right too. And I had read a quote somewhere earlier when the pandemic started, and it talked about during this pandemic you need to come out with three things: a new hobby, a new skill, or a side hustle. Right. So it goes to your point, Dr. Sweeney, is be able to be creative and also make sure that you set some attainable goals during this time that I think is important, and focusing on that and focusing on yourself and really being able to invest in you and figuring out a lot about you. So when I saw that quote and then you said that reminded me of that. As we go, we've only got a few minutes left, Dr. Sweeney, and I'm so glad that you came on today, and I really invite you to come back again in the near future to be with us to talk about this, because this is important, right? So there's two things I want to touch on, and I want you to address this as you can with the few minutes that we got left, right? Our babies, I call it being they've been trapped, right? Our young people, our school age people, they have not been in school since March, right? And they've been doing distance learning for such a long time. They are still in distance learning, with some few districts doing a hybrid model, but still their routine has basically been shut down, and it'll probably be a year since, and even longer, since that's what reality may come back to them, the reality that they know. What can the young people and their parents do to maintain themselves, their relationship, and their mental health as school has not been in full session for quite a while? What can they do?
I think first, and this is just my opinion, but I think first and foremost that we have to have continuous, even very small micro conversations with our children, even if we don't think they're even the babies who may not be able to go to childcare, even if we don't think they understand, have micro conversations with them on an ongoing basis to continue to help them understand that we don't understand, right? And I say that because children are continuously showing that they are trying to really understand what's happening and why we've shifted this way so drastically, but they truly aren't understanding, or they're not truly articulating it. And it's not to their fault, because as adults, we're not also, fully articulating what's going on. We've just kind of been thrown in this, and we've been kind of swimming, right? Like you're thrown in a pool and you either swim or you sink. And for kids, again, they miss their friends. They miss their friends the most. They miss those social connections. I had one little girl say, I even miss the people who was picking on me and I was picking back on them, and not in a bullying sense, but I even miss that because I miss that connection. I miss that ability to be able to, play
Tell her to get up
or
off
do
me,
that. Doing things like that, but not having that anymore. These kids are missing each other. And they need that. They need engagement. So I think they need more engagement, even with the hybrid models and those kind of things. And so we have to keep talking to them, even when we don't know. We even be vulnerable and tell them we don't know. But what we're seeing in kids is that they're failing their classes, kids who weren't failing a year or two ago. We are seeing their behaviors are coming out that we didn't see before. And because what kids do is they don't always express it verbally, but what we will see is we'll see it through their behavior. And so recognizing that, also giving parents some grace, because they're holding it down, right? So as community members, as I say, we hold parents while they're holding their children and holding it down, right? Because they have a very important job to do inside of the household, which is a dual role, which is also educator, not taken away from the educators, but they have a huge job to do. But I would say, as a collective, keep talking about this and let the children speak too about what would be helpful for them. Children have a big voice. If we ask them, typically they'll tell us. I'll say that.
Dr. Sweeney, I appreciate you so much, sister. We are so out of time, but I would love for you to give folks your information on how they could contact you on the air. So give folks information how to get in touch with you.
Absolutely. So on Instagram, and I'm very new to that, so you guys give me some grace. So I'm at Dr. Sheila Sweeney, so DrSheila SWEENEY. That's also on Facebook. And then also for my website, it's ppjth.com. So ppjth, Pieces and Puzzles, Journeys Through Healing.com.
I appreciate you so much, sister. Can I get a commitment for you to come back again in the near future to talk about this?
Absolutely, it would be my pleasure. This is truly an honor for me. I grew up listening to KMOJ, so for me to be on here, I would have never have thought that. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Sweeney. I appreciate you. That
Thank
was
you so much.
Dr. Sweeney with Pieces and Soul. Kim, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, she dropped so many dimes
She did.
In that period of time that I really appreciate the fact that she did, and hopefully folks in the Twin Cities, some of the things that she talked about resonated with them to be able to deal with the things that the next couple of months will bring.
Right. Man, I told you already, I was already trying to find her before. As soon as you announced her name, I'm like, I need her in my life. So I will definitely be giving her a call. That's a side note. Be on the lookout, Miss Sheila. Dr. Sheila.
And hopefully she's still listening. And I hope Twin Cities will be able to connect with her. So as always, it's my pleasure. I wish we had more time to go in it with Dr. Sweeney. But again, I think that was helpful for folks and I enjoyed it. So with that being said, Twin Cities, I am out. This is Anthony Taylor. Be safe. Be blessed.
All right, Twin Cities. On the way is Zany K, Mr. Loudmouth himself. A little bit later, you've got Walter Q. Bear Banks. And, of course, N.I. is going to bring it home. And after that is the Mr. Quiet Storm, Caddy, the Prince of Darkness. One love, kings and queens. Until next time.
This hour of programming on KMOJ is supported in part by the following underwriters.
North Point reminds you to protect yourself. Wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds, especially after you've been in a public place or after coughing or sneezing. If soap and water aren't available, use hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol. Cover both of your hands and rub them together until dry. Avoid touching your face with unwashed hands. Sanitize packages and store items as you bring them into your home. Help keep our community safe.